Hi, everybody. Δεν θα μιλήσω ελληνικά, γιατί θα είναι λίγο αστείο. Μια φορά παράγγειλα μια σαλάτα με πατζούρια και ευτυχώς δεν είχαν να μου δώσουν. Έχω κάνει και άλλες γκάφες, δεν θα τα πω τώρα. I was in Warsaw the other day. This is the old town in Warsaw. I don't know if anybody's been there. It's a beautiful city, absolutely beautiful. Really a great city, and it's doing very well, by the way. It's just a great pity about the weather. I mean, it really is bad. It was snowing. And I find whenever I'm in a northern European city, I find myself automatically singing that great Greek song. Δεν κάνει κρύο στην Ελλάδα. Κρύο. Kavala, I woke up this morning with this view. I mean, just amazing. And the sea is so clean. It's an amazing city. Pity about the economy. You know something? You can't fix the weather. We've got to fix the economy. While I talk to you this evening, I want you to think of that exceptional young man that we heard earlier, Thanos. Because actually, I'm kind of talking about Thanos with everything that I'm going to be talking to you about tonight. By the way, that's Warsaw at the end of the war. The city didn't exist. It was bombed into oblivion. It didn't exist. Okay? That's the square that I showed you earlier. That's that same square today. Γίνεται. They started rebuilding that city in 1945. By 1955, it looked something like that. Today, the city is absolutely restored. By the way, they didn't have photographic references. They rebuilt those buildings from paintings. It's remarkable. Γίνεται. You know, we human beings we like comfort in many different ways. We really like progress, but we don't like change. So we tend to kind of like stay with what we know. And then things come along which kind of like disrupt our lives a bit, and we get very upset about it. And I think this is the δεν γίνεται strategy. It's all about keeping things the way they are. So the easy answer is δεν γίνεται. But there's sometimes in life where that nice rope starts to break. And all of a sudden, you're forced to react. You're forced to react. And I'm going to talk to you about one of those moments in my own life. I grew up in South Africa. I went to university in Cape Town, beautiful city, by the way. And when I was writing my final exams at university, I'd go down to a very specific spot on the seaside every night just to clear my brain out. And I'd sit there and watch the sunset. Beautiful, on the Atlantic coast. Sometimes you'd see seals jumping out of the water, which is beautiful. One night I'm walking down, I'm wearing a pair of shorts, and I'm barefoot, and suddenly there's that. 6 inches away from my foot. That snake is called a puff adder. It is incredibly lazy, but when it decides to strike, it does it like this. And it's got huge fangs, sinks them into you, you've got 20 minutes. 20 minutes. And very often that snake just sticks there and you can't pull it out. It's ugly. It's short and it's fat and lazy. And I'll never forget what happened to me. In a split second, I made the most amazing decisions I've ever made in my life. There I was, a snake right in front of my foot, and I had to think, what do I do? I wasn't trained for this. Who's trained to face a snake? And I went through all the options I had, and I came to the final decision. In a nanosecond, I lifted my foot, and I carried on walking, as though I didn't see it. That was a defining moment in my life. It was disruptive change. I had to do something about it. I had to be in the now. I couldn't be anywhere else. There was no past, there was no future, there was now. Nothing but now. The only vision of the future that I had was to survive. Nothing else. I had to be focused on now. That's a very powerful thing, to be focused on now. As humans, we tend to be overly focused on the past and the future, and for the present, it's like, who cares? Who cares? Well, that changes when your life is disrupted. Fear. Fear is the very first thing. Now, fear's an amazing thing, you know. You can't just run away from fear. You have to travel through it. You have to understand it. And then you have to overcome it. If you overcome fear, you turn fear from a barrier, it suddenly becomes the fuel that drives you towards amazing things, because fear is what gets adrenaline moving in your body. It gives you fuel. It pushes you forward. But you have to recognize your fear, and you have to deal with it and overcome it. By the way, if you're not scared, you're just not paying attention, which is even worse. You have to feel your fear. You have to overcome your fear. That's how you turn the obstacle into a way forward. That's my family. My grandmother. My grandmother was born on the island of Imbros, not too far from here. And in 1922, she was forced to emigrate. She was 18 years old. She got onto an a ship, and she went to the bottom tip of Africa. There was no internet, I remind you. She couldn't check the weather. She couldn't check if lions ate people on the streets. She didn't know if there were any Greeks down there that she could talk to. She didn't speak any English. She got onto a ship, and she went to Africa with my grandfather, my papu. And they also knew that when they arrived there, if they didn't like it, they couldn't come back. They had no money. That photograph, that's my mother there. She's now 90 years old, so you can imagine how old that is. My grandfather called his store the Australian cash store. I have no idea why. Maybe he thought he was in Melbourne. But it's wacky. It's really weird. But within a couple of years, they had a pretty successful business. They built it from nothing, absolutely nothing. They had courage, lots of courage. That's the next thing that one needs. It's not easy. Skill. I've got a picture of a jazz musician up there because I really think that skill provides you the platform to do what we saw so beautifully well on the stage a little earlier, which is to improvise. Because you've got to improvise your way through life. There's no book telling you how to do things. And I love this. By the way, in my own business, marketing, I say that marketing has become jazz. I used to think that I was conducting some kind of big orchestra. No, you're not. It's jazz. You've got to respond all the time. You've got to change. You're doing things on the move all the time. And I love this statement over here from Dimitris Mitropoulos, who's the ex-conductor of the New York Philharmonic. He says, I never use a score when conducting my orchestra. Does a lion tamer enter a cage with a book on how to tame a lion? No. Learn your stuff so well that you know how to improvise. Because life forces you to improvise, especially when you're living now. Enthusiasm, the most wonderful word in the world. I discovered quite recently, I'm ashamed of myself as a Greek, that the word enthusiasm comes from the en theos, the God inside me. That's where it really comes from deep inside. And I think you saw young Thanos earlier. I saw so much en theos coming out of this man, didn't you? I mean, it's just like full of it. It's coming out. The next thing, integrity, which I think is incredibly important, especially for us as Greeks. I gave a talk quite a few years ago in Thessaloniki where I said rebranding Greece is actually about rebranding Greeks. In other words, reconnecting with who we really are. I've also made some statements like we'll never be good Germans. We need to become exceptional Greeks. Exceptional Greeks. And then I had this amazing experience the other day in South Africa. This guy contacts me on Facebook, and he tells me he bought a book. And the front page of this book has got my signature on it. And the date is 1973. That's the year of the snake, by the way, that I came across that snake, right? And he sent me this thing, and he said, you know, I bought this book at a secondhand bookstore, and it belongs to you. And we started, like, corresponding a bit with each other. And he took a photograph of something that he'd noted in that book. And I want to read it to you because it's absolutely phenomenal. It says, the ability to accept ourselves for what we are without exaggeration is the key, since the chief value of human life is fidelity to ourselves, sincerity in the most profound sense. In our relationships with other human beings, what we truly are is all that counts. Yet it is precisely here that we most often betray ourselves by trying to be whatever the other person expects us to be. This exhibits a total lack of faith in ourselves. To the extent that I have faith in anyone else, I reveal my lack of the courage to be myself. There are, in the end, only two choices: sincerity or self-deception. To be or not to be. And this just struck me like a hammer. Like a hammer. And then there's this incredible song by Leonidas Balafas. I don't know if you've seen it. Where he says, «Άντε να σταθώ στα πόδια μου, μετά από τόσα χτυπήματα, έχω ξεχάσει τα βήματα, μα δεν με παίρνει να πω δεν μπορώ, πρέπει να μπω στο χορό». Όχι πρέπει να κάνω κάτι, πρέπει να μπω στο χορό. Fear, courage, skill, enthusiasm, integrity. And I think we saw all those qualities in Thanos earlier. All of them. All of them. But there's one more that he also displayed, and that is optimism. People call me an optimist, and I say, yes, of course I am. I'm not a blind optimist. I don't view the world through rose-colored glasses, but I'm a strategist. And being a strategist means that I help people, and myself, by the way, to move from point A to point B. If I can't see point B, I'm out of work. I have to be looking for the opportunities. I have to, and we all have to. Because it's through opportunity that we'll create our way out of this crisis. By creating a way out. And once you find that point B, you've got to believe that you can do it. Otherwise, what are you going to do? The most important lesson the snake taught me, now. Absolutely now. Have a vision for the future, execute it now. Move. I want to leave you with just a couple of thoughts. I do a lot of work with the Benaki Museum, and this comes from a film that we made, which is really remarkable. You can see it on YouTube. And it says at the end, our land is full of treasures. Let's not forget that. And the treasures we've got are vast. They're vast. Our history, our culture, what this earth produces, what we're able to package it into. Bravo. What's it called? A rivalo. Rivalos. It's remarkable, the treasures that we've got. Let's not forget that. But the biggest treasure of all are the kids. Somebody said it all. Socrates. Know yourself. Be yourself. Gnothe safton. We've got a lot to provide the world right now. But we need to discover it first. And once we discover that, and we turn that into creative enterprise, we've got a lot to offer the world. And those are all the reasons why I say, yinete. You've probably seen the video I've got, where I say the most popular word in the Greek language is the one that starts with an M. The second most popular is then yinete. So I say, get rid of the then and make it yinete re malaka. Thank you very much.